Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Bow Nerds Podcast. We've got a special guest today, which I'm super thrilled about. A good friend and buddy, Trevor Thompson. And today's mental health podcast is going to dive deep into the space that Trevor actually is very close with on a day-to-day basis. So I'll kind of let Trevor introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, both professionally and everything else professionally, because you do a lot of different professions and have a lot of fun. So
yeah, I wear lots of hats. My company I work for calls me the utility player because I do so many different things. So I mean, as far as the outdoor world goes, my brother, myself, and my best friend Josh, we own PSC Outdoors. We're an outfitter here in Utah. Braxton was one of our first clients actually on a buffalo hunt. And if we always joke and laugh about that, actually, we're like, if we could create the perfect client, we could be replicating Braxton.
Oh, don't butter him up.
It was the greatest. It's still my favorite hunt.
That was a lot of fun.
And if we could describe our perfect niche of what we do, that's it, right? Like,
yeah.
No offense to the bigger outfitters. They're not our competition. We don't want them to be. I don't want a governor's tag. I don't want a rich trigger man. Like, I want the guy that waited 25 years, or in Braxton's case, win the lottery and have some hunting experience, 3 points, and feels like they're going to hunt with some buddies. We make it super affordable. We're not tucking you in at night and putting food in front of your face. You know, it's very normalized, and it's a very small fill, and that's our niche, right?
Yeah, you guys do a good job at that as well. So
I appreciate it. And then as far as mental health, which we're talking about today, I'm the business director for a company called Ascent Counseling and Wellness. We have 6 clinics: Delta, Cedar City, 2 in St. George, 1 in Mesquite, Nevada, and 1 in Hurricane. And they're all just your standardized medical or marriage and family standard practice clinics. You go to a therapist for an hour, you go home. And then we have a medication management piece where we do like genetic testing, evaluations of medications, and then some lab work and stuff like that, just to keep it systemic. My background, I spent 12 years in therapeutic boarding, working with youth. The last 7 years I was there, I was like a school counselor, mostly working strictly with the parents, coaching these parents through how to be better parents, which is crazy because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
do any of us?
It was funny because, you know, I got families from all over the country, sometimes out of the country, you know, all over the world that would come to the school, pay a lot of money and say, fix my kid. And it was like, yeah, we can do that, but we need to fix you too. And that was my role a lot of times, and it wasn't always easy. When I transitioned into the marriage and family world and kind of took over helping manage these clinics, it was a huge paradigm shift because we're seeing people that want to get help versus kids that they didn't want to be there. They didn't want to do that, right?
Getting forced into it.
Yeah. And so it was a huge relief, but it also opened my eyes to how much people are struggling. And that's kind of the topic I want to go into. And, you know, before I really dive into it, I want to preface, like, I'm not a woman hater. I don't think women are the problem, but I want to focus on men. I do feel like they're under attack. And we, you know, in the outdoor world, we see a lot of really rough, tough guys, obviously. And most of us probably come from a generation where it's like therapy's taboo, right? Like,
yeah,
suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, don't show emotion. And that's what I like to normalize. And what we've really done really successful things with in our clinic is A, normalizing that it's okay to get help, and then B, normalizing it's okay to not be okay. It doesn't make you weak.
Yeah.
But there's a huge issue, and most of it stems from this thing, right? Like, we have a platform at any given time where we can be ridiculed by others, or we self-ridicule based off of the things that we're seeing on a daily basis that aren't reality.
Yeah.
Like social media is not reality, right? Like you got kids that are exposed to things before they should be exposed to it. You got young men that have no emotional resilience. And then you got full grown men that have been taught their entire life that it's not okay to show emotion, that if they do, it's probably going to be held against them in some sort of way. And more so now than ever, I feel like there's an attack on men and masculinity in general.
Mm-hmm.
And your communities used to be so small, right? Like I knew who everybody in my hometown was. And even in a bigger city, like you weren't exposed sitting at home every day to criticism.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the world has shifted to forgetting that the backbone and anchor of our society and of our world are men that do hard things every day that go underappreciated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I took my kids to go see my dad. He's worked at the power plant for 36 years, a coal-fired power plant. And my kids are like, well, I don't understand what this is. I'm like, it's where your power comes from. Like, it's why we have lights on. And whether you believe in clean energy or coal or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, there are people out there that have dedicated their lives to being the backbone to society that are getting ridiculed and underappreciated. And it's like, why are men struggling?
Yeah.
You got people on social media all day criticizing them, that it's not okay to be masculine. Yet we would be lost without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're exposed to it every day, you know. And there's also this huge movement and awareness that, you know, women have this like open platform to scream, "I'm a victim," right? Like, and it's tricky because then men are getting beat up even from the person that's supposed to be their best friend and their life partner, because it's like, well, I saw this on social media. You're a narcissist. If you knew the amount of times that people come in here and claim that their spouse is a narcissist, it would blow your mind. And I'll bet
really?
90% of our clients are not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a hot button right now. And,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Google said so.
Yeah. Or my Instagram said that these characteristics mean that you're a narcissist. And it's like, no, I just don't know how to manage my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I'm a narcissist. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, I feel like, where things are at in society right now. And it's like, no wonder suicide rates are so high in men. No wonder men divorce rates are like flipping a coin. And it's because the grass always seems greener on the other side. You got social media that gives you options. And then if you really want to dive deep into stuff, there's a huge pornography problem and dating apps and all of these surface level things that are detaching us from deep human connection. And that's what we're seeing on a common basis in our clinics. And so I think, recognizing it and bringing awareness to it is important, but we have so much awareness on so many different topics right now. And I love it, but at the same time, like, okay, so what are we going to do about it? Like you look at teenagers and it's like, oh, gaming's so bad and pornography's so bad. Like, 16% increase in dopamine from watching pornography is a common statistic. Okay, great. What are we going to do about it? Like, what are the solutions? Like, the awareness is great, but like, what are the solutions? And I think a big part of it, and this isn't trying to be biased, is coming to therapy. Like, go talk to a professional, because most of the time you're doing better than you realize.
Mm-hmm.
Like we interviewed a therapist recently, and I said, what's your one piece of advice to somebody that's hesitant to come to therapy? And he said, come sit down with me and I'll show you how well you're doing, and you didn't even realize it. Like there's this stigma that you're going to come to therapy and somebody's going to be like, lay down and tell me how you're feeling. And it's like, it's not the shrink mentality anymore. It's like, hey, you have a lot of positive attributes. How can we build on that? And how can we untangle this mess that you have in your head every day?
Yeah.
And
I feel like people are so similar, like just the human species, brains are so similar. Everybody lives the same life, right? They have very similar struggles. Everybody goes through crap where you feel like you're alone, and then you go to therapy and talk to a therapist and they're like, this is totally normal. Now, this is how you can navigate this. I actually just talked to 10 people today about this exact same issue. And you're like, wait, I'm not like, this isn't just a one-off thing.
Yeah. No, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we have a funny saying, if somebody's telling you you're crazy and you're trying to tell them that you're not, you're probably crazy. But if a therapist is telling you, hey, you're not crazy, and you're trying to convince them you are, you're good.
Yeah, you're probably not crazy, right?
Crazy person doesn't know they're crazy.
Yeah.
So it's so true. Like, just to be reassured, like, I'm not the only one struggling with this, and that I can now be given tools to, better improve my day-to-day life is so important. And I wish that there wasn't that stigma of like, oh, you're going to the shrink. And it's like, no, man, like, I just need an hour of undivided attention to sort through the chaos that's in my brain with a professional that can help me realize that I'm okay.
Yeah.
And if that means suicide rates go down, what are you out?
Yeah, right.
Like, what are you really out to go and be like, it wasn't for me? But to normalize, like, most of us are struggling internally day to day and being underappreciated, and that there are people out there that can help you. Like, I wish that was more of a topic of discussion, because it's mostly like, well, there's a narcissist problem and there's this problem. And it's like, hey, these are all awareness things you're talking about, but what are the solutions? And
So what are some things that you think that, like, people can do or we can do to break that stigma, or to get people to feel like it's okay to go in and talk to people?
Yeah, I think normalizing the discussion that we're going. I know so many people that go to therapy and won't talk about it. Like, they won't say, hey, yeah, I go to therapy and it's been great. You should go too. Because we're still so prideful. Like, I'm fortunate because I've worked my entire career around therapists, and I can just sit down with them and pick their brain and have them help me. And I'm an advocate for that, because I've seen the benefits from that, and I've seen men that are very prideful it took a lot to walk through the doors, end up leaving with a notebook and notes going, I've been doing it wrong. And now I'm finally getting better at 50 years old. I should have done this 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But then they won't go tell anybody that they're in therapy, because they feel like it's going to be held against them, that they're going to be viewed as weak, or that there's something wrong with them. And for some reason, whether it's primitive or whatever, we are so guarded with the fact that we had to be vulnerable. And it doesn't get us anywhere. Like,
yeah.
And trust me, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, you're having a bunch of big feelings as a teenager, you should go to therapy. No, you should probably toughen up. Like, I am an advocate for some emotional resilience. But at the same time, teenagers right now, especially boys, are so exposed to so many different things that I was not. I'm coming up on 37, and I wasn't raised on a screen. I wasn't exposed to things that they're exposed to now. So there are a lot more elements to that. But I do think that we are so afraid to hold our kids accountable, but then also let them know that they kind of need to go talk to somebody to work through some of these multiple layers of issues. It's not just one issue anymore. Like, I remember going to school and being frustrated with academics, but I wasn't also sitting there on a game where I'm getting rewarded for shooting somebody in the head, and also just being indirectly exposed to pornography just by scrolling an app without even searching for it. Like,
and then having another app tell you you're not good enough.
Exactly. And it's like the dopamine is all over the place. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not, but like, the average prefrontal cortex, which is the logical thinking front part of the brain, isn't even developed till you're 26. And I'm sure some people like can look back and go, man, I really can see that. Like, I know I can. I remember making decisions and being like, why did I do that? That was so stupid. And that's why, because we're just purely midbrain until we're 25 or 26. And it's just almost barbaric. So now you're giving, kids all this exposure to everything, but then no outlet.
Yeah.
Right? They're not getting the support that they need. And then you got, there's so many factors to it, right? Like you can't get insurance approval, or, they can't afford it. And it's like, if we could normalize the ability to sort through emotions and the fact that it's okay to not be okay and get the help that they need, I think we would see a lot of issues resolve drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically. And we have those platforms. I don't want this to come off like you should come to our clinic because we're the one and only. There are so many good therapists in Utah. I live in St. George, and we actually have the most therapists per capita of any city in the country. Yet some of them struggle to get clients. And it's like, that's crazy with the amount of people here that are struggling. There are so many great therapists out there. We have an entire online platform where somebody can sit in their house and do therapy for an hour on their phone. Like, there is no excuse of why you couldn't go get help. I don't have time to go to an office setting. Okay, get on your phone. You're on it anyways. But you might as well have some proper education rather than the TikTok or YouTube video that some lady said that you're in a bad marriage. Like, go get some professional help and figure out if you're in a bad marriage. And let your husband be able to advocate for himself versus being attacked off some platform.
Yeah.
So there's so many resources out there for sure. And even physical ones, right? Like, how many men have low testosterone that think they're depressed? And it's like
a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's an epidemic in itself.
Guilty.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. And it's like, the wife's like, my husband's not motivated anymore. He's lazy. And it's like, when's the last time he had his hormones checked? And we do all of that here. And I know lots of clinics that do that because it's like systemic. You have to treat the person as a whole, emotionally and physically. And I would bet most men have low T after the age of 35.
Yeah.
They feel depressed. And all of a sudden you give them a shot of life again.
Yeah. So I met with a therapist. We had to do annuals for the fire department, but I met with therapists multiple times just dealing with work stuff and life stuff. But one of my more favorite therapists, he refused to prescribe me any medications until I got my hormones checked.
Wow.
And I was like, well, dude, you just went up a notch in my book because I agree.
That's great. Because that's not always the case. Like, that therapist is a good therapist because that's treating somebody systemically, and that's the best kind of therapist you can find. Like, kudos to them, because the efficient rate of medications is not high. I don't know if people realize that. Like, I have psych NPs that work for me, and they're like, these antidepressants work maybe 13% of the time, based off of the clients they're seeing. But nobody's even checked their testosterone or the way they're sleeping or the way they're eating, how much screen time they have. Like, those are questions we should be asking first. And we're seeing that right now, right? Like, our healthcare system is broke. Our nutrition system's broke. And we're under attack physically and emotionally every day. And it's like, what do we do? Go to a professional. Like, if that was the one thing I could beg of anybody, is just go see a professional. We offer 15-minute free consults. I think most therapy offices do. And you can be like, I'm not meeting with this guy, or oh, this therapist and I clicked really well. Like, there are so many options out there. And if we could just normalize the discussion of like getting help is okay, I feel like we would solve so many problems just from that alone.
Yeah. And get multiple opinions.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's crucial.
Yeah. And, be proactive in your health. Like, we only get to do this once. You only get one body. Like, you might as well be feeling as primed as you can be. And, like I said, if that helps just even the suicide rates alone, like, we're having a win, and we're in a step in the right direction. But again, it's like every day you're under attack. And so how do you navigate through that? again, go see a professional. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like therapy, a lot of people, there's this stigma of like, if you're in therapy, you're broken. And like, you're not broken. It's just you're going to school, you're learning tools, how to deal with different situations is the same thing. Like if people want to get into archery, just something totally random, you can't just pick up a bow and shoot. Like you're absolutely gonna suck. You have no idea what it is. Like you don't have the right tools. You don't know what release to shoot, whatever it might be. And like people expect people to go through life and have it all figured out. Same thing with parenthood. Like you have a kid, you should know, right? There's like, no, you've got to figure this out. You've got to find the tools. You've got to learn. And like, you're not a terrible parent just because you don't know how to parent. You're not a terrible person because you don't know how to deal with different emotional situations. Like you're not broken. You just haven't learned yet.
Here's the thing that most people need to realize. We're all a shit show.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. Like, I don't care who you are. You do not have it figured out. Your kid is going to be different than the kid down the street. And you're going to have a parent completely different. Like, if we could give each other a little bit more grace, that would be the best thing. Because none of us have it figured out. It's weird if you're not weird.
Yeah.
Right.
I have questions if you're not weird. Because we all have our stuff, and we never give anybody the benefit of the doubt anymore. Like, we're already so politically divided, but we never give anybody grace. Like, you know, I love the people that are like, I wonder what kind of day they're having, or what they've experienced to act the way that they're acting. You know, like, I love being naively optimistic and curious about people.
Yeah.
Because it opens the door for so many cool conversations. And it also can help build relationships. And I promise you, I have worked with, you know, back in my therapeutic boarding days, I worked with families that had more money than you can ever imagine. And you know, kudos to them for finding that success. They had as many problems as anybody else. Like, and it was so interesting because you have these kids that had parents that gave them everything. They never would have to work a day in their life. All they wanted them to do was get their diploma and then come work for the family business or get a car and get their college paid for. Like, they had everything. And it was not self-sustaining or empowering at all. The only thing that we actually seen make real change was healthy relationships. There is nothing more important than relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have even 2 or 3 good ones, your life is so much more fulfilled than any amount of money, any amount of things that you could have.
Yeah.
And I think therapy is a great start on how to improve relationships in your life. I really do. But to your point, we are very judgmental. We do not give each other.
Oh yeah.
And Jared, I'm sure you've seen that coming from a different state to Utah specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a whole different atmosphere for sure.
Oh, there's a weird culture, man. And we'll dive into it, but like, you know that culture. It's sometimes so cliquey, and it feels hard to feel like, am I living up to the standards around me, guys?
Yeah, and that's been actually a big thing that, like, I'll be pretty blunt and vulnerable with like my own thoughts, because moving from Utah to Tennessee, I was in that big, like, judgmental state, right? Where how you look is very important in Utah. When you go to the gym and everybody is in tip-top shape, perfectly dressed, pretty hair, pretty makeup, dudes are jacked, like everything's perfect. You go to the gym here in Tennessee and everyone's fat. There's a few like ripped people, but like people are trying. And like in my head, like when I first came, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is totally different. And then like over time, I've realized no one here cares about that. They do care about relationships and like talking to like people. Like I've seen, and again, this is the judgmental side of me. Like I've seen good looking dudes with like a okay girlfriend, like where I'm like, okay, he's like in really good shape and she's she's not.
Yeah.
Why is it the thing? And like I revert, like, I'm like, the people here don't really care about the looks. They care about, and I asked one of them, is a friend of mine. I was like, what do you see in her, type of thing? And like, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful by any means. It's just like, you have this 150-pound dude with a 250-pound girl, and they're both 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm curious. Like, I'll be very blunt and upfront with people. And he's just like, I've never had a girl make me feel the way that she makes me feel. Like, she's so, emotionally there for me and kind. And I love everything about her and all this stuff. Never once did he bring up the way that she looks. And I think that pressure, at least out here in Tennessee, is off the shoulders of a lot of people, versus Utah. It's like, I mean, my wife brings it up all the time, where she's like, if I go to the gym in Utah, like, I feel like crap about myself. And she's in great shape and probably the best shape in the gym here in Tennessee. But like, everything there in Utah is just perfect.
Yeah. And it's funny because that's what most people have been conditioned to kind of judge based off of first, right? Like, you have the Utah mom look. And it's not fair. And the other thing on the flip side of that, though, that I've learned is most people don't care. Like, they're not thinking about you as much as you think that they're thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like, I used to have kind of this insecurity of like, do I look a certain part, or and I'm very supportive of my wife going to church and being active in church. And I remember feeling a little bit of insecure about like, what are people thinking, if I'm not there or whatever. And when it comes down to it, nobody even gave it a thought. It was just me putting that pressure on myself, because that's kind of the conditioned culture we live in here in Utah.
And if they did have a thought, it probably wasn't as negative as you thought it was.
It's like, where's Trevor? I wanted to see him. That's the only thought.
Yeah, exactly. And but to me, it's like, they probably all think I'm a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And they're not. Like, most of the time, people aren't even thinking that, and they're so in their own world. And the people that are, I want nothing to do with anyways.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that. I love that saying, don't seek approval from somebody you wouldn't ask advice from. Like,
I like that.
Yeah. Like, why does it matter so much? Like, our relationships matter more than anything. And those that care about us truly and sincerely, those are the people that matter. Nothing else does. Like, let it go. And I can tell you, even just raising an 11-year-old daughter down here in St. George, dude, it's a trip. Like, I can tell you a story real quick that throws me for a loop. They were in 5th grade last year. I want you to think about that. 10 years old. My daughter comes home and says, "Hey, what do I do if a boy asks me to be their Valentine?" And I said, "I don't even know what that means. Like, what do you mean? What do I do?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's like, does he give you a piece of candy?" And she's like, "Well, no. Like, my friends are getting gifts." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're in 5th grade." "Well, this girl asked this boy to be his Valentine, so she got him a Theragun. And so the boy got her a Minky Bank."
What?
Oh my
God. I was dying. I was like, okay, I have to clarify something.
Those are both like a few $100 gifts.
Yes. I said,
I probably wouldn't even get my wife right now.
Yeah. I was like, they didn't buy each other anything. Their parents bought their kids gifts.
My gosh.
Yeah. And that's what we're working through sometimes. And I have to step back and go, it's not my business. They can do what they want. I'm going to parent how I want to parent. But sometimes I'm like, you're really not making it very easy on me. Like, my daughter's like, "So do I get an iPhone?" Like, no, you don't get any phone. You want a Gab watch that you can call me on and I can see where you're at? Perfect. Like, I see the effects of what social media does to kids every day of my life. I'm not exposing you to that. I love you too much.
Yeah.
But in a society where there are parents that want to try to keep up with that, that's brutal. But I mean, you got to stick to what you know is best for your kids and not based off of what everybody else is doing.
For sure.
There's enough awareness out there to know what not to do with social media and screen time that at this point you're just ignorant to ignore it and try to keep up with what all their friends are doing.
Yeah.
Like I can't do it, but it's so crazy because I watched this through my daughter and I never expect to experience it. I didn't have that crap, you know.
Dude, that is wild.
Hard. Yeah. And it's like, you know, hey, can this boy wants my number, can he text me? I'm like, no, you're 11.
Absolutely not.
We don't need to be texting at night after school. Like, no, you're still watching cartoons. Like, I let your kids be kids for as long as possible. We don't need to dive into romance in 11 years old.
No, yeah.
No. We always say that, like, we tell our kids joking, like, oh, you're just growing up so fast. But, dude, legitimately, kids are growing up too fast nowadays.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And they kind of have no choice to, like, in the systems that they're in.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because, you know, they see these people that they idolize on their social media, and it's like, that's not what I want you to model.
Mm-hmm.
A, you don't know this person.
Yeah. And
B, you're only seeing the good parts of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's another thing is, you know, go get therapy on how to parent through some of that. Like it doesn't even have to be about you and your own personal struggles or your marriage sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm struggling figuring out how to navigate through parenting my daughter and their friends dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And you could spend a couple sessions on that. You know, like there's so many different life phases to where I think therapy could become crucial help. Like, you know, you got the mom that stayed at home her entire life and raised kids, and then all the kids are gone. And she's like, what's my purpose? And she's lost and depressed and anxious and doesn't know how to refine purpose. And it's like, there's a professional out there I guarantee can help you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's again, it just goes back to how do we normalize that it's okay to go?
Yeah. Well, you get physicals every year, right?
Yeah.
Make it a habit to get we call them just a mental health checkup.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be getting a mental health checkup along with getting your physical.
Yeah.
I mean, some people get checkups physically multiple times a year. Why not add in a mental health checkup?
I love that. Like it should be part of an insurance criteria, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like
we have to do it, right? Like I got to go to the eye doctor every year to get my prescription renewed for my contacts. I love that idea. I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
I did have one question that kind of goes back to something we were talking about earlier, because I feel like this is a very common fear for people. How much is a fear of a diagnosis what keeps people away from going into therapy?
It's funny you brought that up, because that was one of my actual personal fears.
Same.
What you'll find is that's usually stemmed from anxiety. And we, at some point, developed a belief system that it was bad to have any kind of diagnosis. What if I'm schizophrenic? What if I am bipolar? What does that mean? Well, step one is go learn what that means. It's okay to have a diagnosis. We are in a society now with so many resources that you'll be okay no matter what. Like, even if you have bipolar, that's okay. Like, there are so many effective treatments, and people with bipolar live a normal life. And that's okay. Like, again, the education on it and getting the tools of how to navigate through that diagnosis is far better than living through life wondering why you're acting the way that you're acting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you don't have the awareness to know why you're acting that way, but everybody else is going, why are you doing this? Why are you self-destructing? Why do you disappear? Why do you shut down? Well, you don't have those answers. And sometimes getting that diagnosis is actually more empowering than the fear of wondering if you have it at all. Like it almost comes down to, like, the more you neglect it, the bigger it's going to get. But as soon as you have the answer, it would almost be like, you know, why do I have nerve pain shooting down my leg? Well, I don't want to go find out, because what if it's cancer? Or what if I have a fused disc or compressed spine? I don't want to know, because then mentally it's going to mess with me.
Yeah.
Well, what if it is a compressed disc and they tell you to go hop on an inversion table every day, and in 3 weeks you're healed?
Yeah.
Like the unknown almost torments us more, I promise, especially if you're somebody with anxiety. Like,
I completely agree.
Anxiety will mess with you, man. Trust me. Like, it's already the fear of the unknown. So why not go get certainty and put it to rest? That's my advice.
It's funny how accurate the movies Inside Out are.
Yeah.
Right? That little anxiety person in Inside Out too, dude, like,
yep.
to the T, it's perfect.
Yep. How do I control
spaz ball going everywhere?
And dude, I'm somebody that has struggled with that most of my life. Like, internally ruminating, what if this happened? What if this happened? You know, and I remember being like 9 years old and my mom and dad leaving on a trip, and it's like, what if they get in a car crash? Who am I going to go live with? What does that look like? And it's like, I didn't have anybody to talk to, or I should say, I didn't take the steps to talk to somebody and be like, hey, I have these weird fears. And for somebody to go, hey, that's normal. It's okay. And maybe it could happen. But if you did, you'd be okay. Right? Like, and just helping settle the chaos and the noise in the head. And we watch it every day. You know, we see that often. I don't want to go to therapy because I don't want to know what's wrong with me. But once you realize that there's probably not much wrong with you, and that it's normal, and that it's okay, and then there's actual options to help you feel better, that's far more efficient and better than sitting there trying to dodge something that you probably don't even have.
Yeah.
And worrying about something that isn't even a reality for you. Because, again, it goes back to, you're not crazy if someone's trying to convince you that you're not. Like, a bipolar person a lot of times doesn't know they're bipolar. You know, and so the fact that you're even worrying about a diagnosis probably means you don't have one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That would be my advice, is just don't let it fester.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Did you add something, Jared?
Other questions?
No, I'm just taking notes.
Oh. I thought you were thinking on what to say next.
No, you're good.
No, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit, kind of transition into like how hunting in the outdoor space and how we can help those kind of people with these issues, and if there's any correlation. Because, I mean, obviously you talked about the masculinity stuff, and obviously it kind of is inherent that if you're a hunter and you're in the outdoors, you're usually fairly masculine, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of just wanted to touch on that kind of stuff, because I feel like a majority of the people going to be watching this are in the outdoor space.
Yeah.
So if you got anything for those guys,
or
gals, we're here for gals too. But
for sure. In my opinion, they have the biggest benefit because they're outdoors. Like, I sometimes struggle to wrap my head around that there are dudes that have never put their feet to dirt. Like, these guys that live in the concrete jungle. Like, I promise you, like, statistics show, and some of our therapies prescribe this. Go outside. Be in nature. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that you're seeing a huge influx of people getting into the outdoor world and the hunting world. Like, yes, I know there's those that are like, well, I want the recognition on social media, and I want, I want to be making money off of it. I think that there is no coincidence that you're seeing people do that, because there is something so fulfilling about being in the outdoors. To getting up and having intention. The intention alone will make a man feel more fulfilled than anything, because they feel like they're in their place. They feel like they're in their environment, and they know what they're doing that day. the uncertainty about day to day and being in a job that they hate it's detrimental. But when you get outdoors and you're like, I know what I'm doing, I'm up early, I'm moving, I'm in my natural element, which is the outdoors. Like that's a step in the right direction, and probably why some of these guys are hanging on. But the other thing is understanding that it is not unmasculine to go talk to somebody. Like it's really not. And that doesn't always even have to be therapy. How many conversations have you guys had hunting together? Because I know you guys are close. Where you left the mountain that day and you're like, I feel so much better.
Every time.
Every time.
More often than not, I'd say for sure.
Have hard conversations with somebody and know it's okay to be vulnerable. And somebody that truly cares about you will listen. And if they don't, then they're probably not somebody you need to keep in your circle anyways. But talking about it is step one. Like, get it off your chest. Stop ruminating. Stop self-sabotaging. Because I guarantee the guy sitting next to you on the glassing point's going, dude, me too. Like my favorite book is Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. I don't know if you guys have read it.
I haven't.
I haven't.
Probably one of the best books I've ever read. And it's not really a self-help book, but he's tied in kind of these metaphors to sometimes the lights are green, sometimes they're red for you, and those red lights are on purpose. And he has a part in the book where he is struggling with this newfound fame, and he goes and sees this monk. And he's like, I'm just talking for hours. And this dude's saying nothing. And I'm telling him about all these issues I have. And he's like, all he did was look at me and said, me too. And it's like, oh, I'm not the only one with these struggles. And I think that's step one. And he's like, that was the biggest recognition to me. It's kind of what you said earlier, Brax, is like, yeah, we're all struggling. And it's okay. Yeah. And talk about it. Don't feel like it's not okay to be vulnerable. And I understand that sometimes it feels really crappy to open up and have somebody be insensitive to that. But again, the right person will make you feel okay about it. Like the two of you going out and talking about those things, neither one of you would ever make you feel stupid for being like, dude, I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
And so just talking about it, honestly.
Yeah.
Keep going outdoors. Keep working out. Keep going outside. Like they say there's a higher efficiency rate of treating depression by working out 40 minutes a day, getting direct sunlight, and having a balanced diet for depression than there is medication.
Totally.
I would agree with that. Definitely and experienced a lot of that.
Yeah, I'll touch on I know I've mentioned it before. Like I met with a psychologist when I was really just down. Like, I mean, couldn't get out of bed type of stuff, and just felt totally unmotivated, just not pissed, just really sad. Right. So I talked to a psychologist, and like his like biggest things on prescriptions: working out, ice baths, getting outside. And kind of the situation that I was in is he kind of described it as situational depression, where a big move from Utah to here, having a kid, just juggling life, figuring out work, all that stuff. So he's like, that's kind of the reason why I went on medication just for a 6-month period. He's just like, your brain needs a 6-month reset. Take this, but you have to go to the gym. You have to do ice baths. You have to eat healthy. You got to go outside. So like, never once have I ever been on a diet my entire life. And I usually eat like crap. I'm sure you remember on the buffalo hunt. I had snacks galore, sugar, everything. Yeah. And this last few weeks, especially like this new year, this last month, basically been like a carnivore keto, not like specific diet, but like my biggest thing is like, I'm just going to pay attention to how much protein I intake every day.
Yeah.
And by focusing on that, it's like, okay, what has protein in it? Everything healthy. What doesn't have protein in it? Sugar.
Yeah.
So mentally,
it's a lot more simple than people think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I overcomplicated it, like through the roof of like, I gotta be exact grams, exact this, exact that, where it's just like, no, pay attention. I want to hit 150, 160 grams of protein a day and just do that. And I promise you, focusing on something like that, I mean, the sweetest thing I eat is yogurt and strawberries, like whoop-de-doo.
All very low inflammatory.
Yeah. And like, I feel physically better, mentally better. I have less gas. My poops are healthier. Like,
thank goodness.
Trust me, like that part of my life was terrible. I'm not saying that like yesterday I was dying wanting like just something just like sugar. I couldn't figure out what I wanted, but like I was sitting there, I was like, my body's craving something. My wife's like, yeah, sugar, like fake sugar. I'm like, no, but I don't want something sweet.
It's cocaine.
I need something. So I ate some yogurt, but like that, and then working out, and that is a big factor. And like, get help, talk to somebody. My biggest thing, and I talked to Jared about this on a different episode, was like, I was so low, I couldn't get the motivation to go to the gym. I couldn't get the motivation to eat healthy. I couldn't get the motivation to shoot my bow, right? To where I finally reached out. I talked to my parents. They're really big in like self-help and therapy and get the right knowledge and coaches and whatnot. And so I talked to them. They'd struggled with some stuff. And I then got in contact with a psychologist, talked to him. He was like, dude, you're normal. This is what's going on. Yeah. This is what's happening in your brain, your frontal cortex, your dopamine, your serotonin. Like, this is the cycles that's happening. So let's have you do these things. Let's have you, take this medication. And he's one that was like, I don't typically like to do medication. And I was kind of like anti it too, but I was like so far gone. I'm like, I need something. So like that first little boost is what got me back to doing the things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I am in a mental state of like, yes, it's not a long-term fix to stay on that medication. I'm not going to be on it for years and years and years. So I'm like 6 months and do my part in what it's going to take on, the opposite side of stuff, like physical stuff versus just taking medication and expecting all my problems to go away. Because that's not the case. You can't take a medication and you're boom fixed and you can live the same life. Like, that's not what it is.
Well, and the biggest thing that I took away from that is you went and got help, and he put together a roadmap for you. And it was your choice to follow it, right?
Yep.
And he recognized big changes in your day-to-day that maybe you didn't think were impacting you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our CNS knows us better than anyone, but we don't always recognize that it's under turmoil in those moments. And we're just like, I don't know why I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And your CNS is like, I do, but
yeah, right.
Somebody else talks to you and is like, dude, you just moved across the country. You left your friends. You left your family. You're in an unfamiliar environment. Like, who wouldn't feel the impacts of that?
Yeah.
And here's the roadmap that I think could help you. But you have to walk the walk. And again, you don't do any of that without seeking some help.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. The help was the most helpful, just to talk to a singular person outside of, and then like even opening up with Jared. I talk to Jared all the time, good days, bad days. And then finally, I know you saw the post on Instagram I made, like reaching out and just not necessarily reaching out, but like throwing that was like terrifying to me to be that vulnerable. But mentally, I was so caught up of like, no matter what I post, somebody's going to be judging me because I'm not on my best, right? So it wasn't like here's my excuse. It's just like, hey guys, this is where I'm at. And I just want to be totally honest. And like now when I post, I don't feel embarrassed to post. Like it probably no one ever would ever care. But for my own like journey, I'm like, I have to get this off my chest and then we can keep moving forward.
I thought it was amazing.
I appreciate it.
Some vulnerability that I think that platform could benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
That's the positive of that platform is seeing things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the amount of reach outs I got, dude, from like people you would have no idea that struggle.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Like, I got friends in this. And then same thing with people that were struggling. We're like, they reached out to both Jared and I were like, dude, I was always so envious of your life. You guys had it all. And now I see that you struggle and you're one of us. And like, I appreciate that. Where it's like, I mentally, like, we didn't really think like, okay, yeah, we're just posting our highlight reels, but yes, that's what we are doing. And then we, in that sense, can be a factor of somebody else's depression thinking, oh, I wish I could have their life, when in all reality, but like you said, all of our lives are a shit show. We're all terrible. Like, we all go through crap.
That should be the catchphrase for this episode. We're all
it's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Okay. That's the thing, is it's totally fine. Like, the more that we can accept that, like, dude, this is not easy. Life is not easy.
Yeah.
And yes, kudos to the generations before us that survived much harder things. But are they really okay?
Well, and also how much of these issues we're having nowadays is caused from that generational putting it off, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And now we have to deal with it, so our kids don't have to deal with it.
Well, and I always say this, like, I have the utmost respect for my dad and the life that he went through, and to come out and be the greatest dad I could ever ask for. But I'm like, I mean, we've had hikes where I'm like, dude, are you going to, you need to talk to somebody. And he's like, no. I'm like,
no.
Well, this is my therapy. I'm in the outdoors and I'm fine. Hey,
okay.
They don't make him like that. Brax met him. They don't make him like that anymore. He's a special creature.
He's awesome. One of the best dudes I've ever met.
But he could probably have benefited from some help, for sure. But I appreciate the tenacity, and I appreciate the lack of victimizing that he went through, and taught me how to be accountable. And hey, just because your situation's bad, you have two choices: choose to be a victim or choose to do better. And one's the accountable way, and that's the way I like to try to live as well. But sometimes to be accountable is to seek out help and find a roadmap, because that's the proactive thing to do. We're too reactive in this world and not proactive enough, in my opinion. So that would be my advice to people: would be proactive.
So what do you think, just to give people a couple little snippets before we head out, before they get into too deep and dark of a hole, what are some things that people can look out for? I mean, you have people that aren't super hyper aware of themselves, right? They might just be questioning, well, what's going on with me? Why am I so quick to anger, or something like that? But what are some of the few common signs you guys see in people that can help these people recognize that there is becoming an issue?
So, like, essentially, what can the support system do for those that they're watching?
Well, no. So, like, people that might not, indicators that are like, so if I'm going down this deep dark hole, how do I know that I need to go seek help if I don't know some of the signs that are pretty, like, associated?
You're going down a hole but don't realize it.
Yeah.
What's something to try to pay attention to recognize the hole you might be in? Something like that.
Or something that people listening might be experiencing.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, I'm experiencing that. I should probably either keep an eye out or definitely just go seek help.
I would say the biggest factor, and Brax, you did a really good job at this. You just use this as an example. If you're not doing the things that you know that you love normally, and you don't find any desire to do them at all, you probably need to reach out to someone. Like, if something you were so passionate about is no longer something that you have any interest in, that's a huge red flag to needing to ask the question why. Like, I know we all go through hobbies and phases, but if there's something that you're like, man, I just love to do this, and you don't have any desire to do it anymore, that would be a huge red flag to me. Or if you hear others going, dude, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. But they know that you're not. That's probably a good sign to go, why does everybody keep asking me that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the reality is not everybody has situational awareness or insight, because they've become so accustomed to living that way day to day that they sometimes have others noticing before they do. And so that would be two of the red flags I would say to kind of keep in mind. Is why does everybody keep asking me if I'm okay? Because they're noticing something that maybe I'm not. And why don't I want to do those things that I used to love to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. Great points.
So that'd be mine. What else?
We're all pondering.
This has been great. No, I love
really
it, dude.
good.
I feel like we're probably gonna have to get you on again so that this doesn't turn into a 2-hour episode.
No, yeah. I know you guys like to keep them a little bit shorter, but I'm happy.
I really want to dive into hormones with you. So, but that's another day.
And I'm not even necessarily an expert on that, other than I supervise people that are.
Yeah.
And it's a rabbit hole. You can dive down so many different ways, and how we're attacked on a daily basis from the water we drink and the food that we eat. And then
maybe that's a homework assignment for everybody listening, is just go get your hormones tested.
Yeah,
myself included.
Every year you should get hormones checked.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I know young guys right now, and I'm not linking vaccine stuff. So I don't want anybody taking it that way. I don't need to be under.
You're such a conspiracy theorist.
Theory, but I know young guys right now that are having heart attacks more than ever, and I don't know the correlation, but none of them that have had one went and got their HDL or their LDL checked. The two precursors in your blood work that take 5 minutes to check on, dude, you've got some high levels and you're on the verge of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you do see those levels high and you're ignoring them, then like, shame on you. But like, those alone are things that I'm seeing become more and more prominent in younger people. And I don't need to dive into the whys and the conspiracy theories or whatever, but we are seeing a lot more of it. And a lot of it's negligence and not understanding our blood work or getting those things checked. Mm-hmm. So that would for sure be something that, again, be proactive, not reactive. Like, you don't want to be that 40-year-old that, like, everybody's like, can you believe you had a heart attack? Well, did you do any blood work? Because you could have probably seen that you were on.
I kind of can.
Years ago. Yes. Yeah. Even healthy people for whatever reason, like, those things, you owe it to not only yourself, but your families, your kids. Mm-hmm. Like, no kid deserves to be at their dad's funeral young.
No, not at all.
That should be motivated.
I said this little quote on Mountain Ops podcast I did that hasn't aired yet, but I'm going to say it again because it's one of my most favorite quotes ever. And it's the quote of, you said you would die for your children, but would you live healthy for them?
Absolutely.
You have no reason to not take care of yourself. And if you're not prioritizing your physical and your mental health and your spiritual health, you're doing a disservice to you, your spouse, your kids.
Yep.
You have to do something about it.
Yep.
Like, I mean, it's not too late, but you got to do it.
Yep. I've always said I never want to be the dad that looks unathletic playing catch with my kid or watching my kid at sports. Like, that's motivation enough to me.
Yeah.
I had friends that are like, oh my gosh, my dad looks so bad throwing a ball. Or can't even right? Like, to me, that is demoralizing. And that might be my own self-belief system, but like, I never want to sit at a ball game and my kid be embarrassed of me.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I want him to be like, yeah, my dad's a model of hard work and taking care of his health, and sitting in the stands over there. He's like, yeah, I don't feel weird about my dad. You know, like I don't even need to worry about him being unhealthy and they can't get up and walk to the field. You know, that is pretty demoralizing in my opinion.
Totally.
Yeah. Dude, I love it that like when everyone sees my dad and they're like, dude, your dad is a badass. I was like,
I've seen your dad. He
is.
Your mic's screeching, Jared. Just heads up. Yeah. Every episode, his mic goes down.
Hey, but it was an hour this time. Is that better?
No.
Great.
Oh, there it goes. There
you go.
Yeah, you're good.
I have seen your dad. He's a monster, and I love it.
Yeah. Oh, so do I.
He's a freaking tank.
My goal is to raise my kids to be better than me at everything. Yeah. But my other goal is to never let them beat me in anything.
Oh, yeah. My dad had a saying my entire life. You can get bigger, you can get stronger, but you'll never be meaner. So if you ever want to try, let me know. And it was like, I don't. To this day, my dad, I have that healthy fear of like, nope, not going there.
Nope. Ain't happening, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah, I try to replicate that in my household as well.
That's awesome, dude. Well, Trevor, man, genuinely appreciate you getting on.
Yeah, dude.
You guys doing this is so cool. You know, I don't ever view you guys as a bunch of influencers or just trying to be relevant in the outdoor space. Like, I've always seen your content. It's genuine and nothing but positive. So I appreciate that you guys are doing this kind of thing, and especially having me on. You know, I don't ever feel like anybody that's relevant or, you know, somebody that's like, everybody needs to hear what I have to say, because that's not the case. But I do appreciate what you're doing and having me on for sure.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate the time and the expertise and just being open with, you know, sharing your experiences working at the offices you work at, and just the importance of just reaching out, get that figured out.
No, I appreciate it, guys, so much. And let me know if you ever need anything. If you want me back on, that's totally fine. We can talk whatever, hunting.
We'll have to get you on the other podcast for the hunting too.
I'll talk buffalo any day.
Oh, let's do it. Let's just end this one and start another hour-long one talking about buffalo.
There you go.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
appreciate
brother.
it, man.
You take care, man.
Take care.